we're finally ready to get started actually building some stuff and trying out some of these concepts that we've developed and selected. And I can't possibly cover specific prototyping techniques for all possible domains. Those of you doing fashion apparel are going to use sewing machines. Those of you working on software are going to write code. Those of you designing websites might use PowerPoint to create prototypes. But I do want to say a few words about prototyping for products. First thing I want to say is be very careful, all right? Even hand tools can be quite dangerous. I don't want anyone cutting themselves or losing a finger or poking out an eye, so be super careful. So make sure that you're wearing protective eyewear, that you're keeping your hands away from sharp objects, and that you know what you're doing with any tool that you're using to make a prototype. The second thing that I want to say is that while some of you are highly skilled at making things, and while skill is certainly valuable and useful in product design, don't be afraid to dive in and build prototypes even if you don't have relevant skill or expertise in making things. It isn't that hard. Your goal here is to learn, and there's no reason not to just dive in and try to build some things. I'm going to try to apply the discipline here in showing you some prototypes of only using hand tools. And so the tools that I'm going to use are, I've got a hammer, I've got a metal clipper, a shear, I've got a box cutter or utility knife, I have a little file, I have a screwdriver, I have what in the US is called a coping saw, but it's a saw for cutting wood. And those are the tools that I'm going to try to use in creating these prototypes. I guess I've got some sandpaper here as well. And you don't need much more than that to make simple prototypes of most physical goods. Let me also say that in terms of materials, you want to make resourceful use of found objects, of things that you have lying around or things that you can easily get for not much money. So for instance, I'm very interested in the notion of a punching action for an ice cream scoop. And I got to thinking about that and started to think about how I might prototype something like that. And I came up with the idea of using a tomato paste can as the cylinder for doing that punching. And I thought, well, maybe I can cut out a shape out of that can. So that is a very inexpensive product. I even saved the tomato paste to use in cooking. So for almost nothing, I've got a nice cylinder here that I can use in a prototype. My older son is a baseball player. We have a lot of broken baseball bats in our house. So I took some baseball bats because I thought these might make nice handles for an ice cream scoop. So I took those objects. I had some sheet metal lying around. Again, if you didn't have any pieces of metal, you could use a can to cut some steel or aluminum out of a can. And then I have just some pieces of wood lying around that I figured I could reuse or recycle in order to make some of the handles and so forth. So found objects, simple hand tools can get you quite a ways. I guess the other thing to say about resourceful use of existing objects is it's going to be hard in some cases to replicate some of the complex geometries that you might need or want in your prototype. And so, for example, in ice cream scoops, the whole scoop shape recurs repeatedly in the concepts that we're looking at. That's actually a pretty hard shape to make with hand tools, but there's no reason I can't take this product that I paid about $4 for and cut it up in order to use it in my prototype that I'm using just to test an idea. So making clever or resourceful use of some existing products to adapt them to one of your concepts is totally fair. It's very common. Finally, let me say that what I'm doing here is standard professional practice. That is, just because it's hand tools and found objects and done very simply doesn't mean it's amateur. This is the way product designers everywhere mock up or experiment with physical goods. So what we're doing in this course, and my emphasis here on simple approaches to prototyping, is very standard practice, because your goal here is for you as the designer to be able to learn and explore without incurring a lot of time or expense using professional or elaborate production processes.